Hi everyone, it's Julia. So today I'm going to be showing you my foundation routine, but it's going to be a little bit more than that because I'm also going to be showing you how to highlight, how to contour, how to apply blush and powder and all that good stuff. You know, this is not going to be specific to like any skin tone color. Obviously my skin's really fair, but you know, even if you have darker skin or medium or whatever, it's more about the technique and how to apply. I'm also going to be giving you a lot of brush recommendations, just like showing you what I use. Maybe it's helpful to you guys. And you know, you don't have to do like this whole routine every single time that you go out. It would just be a little bit too time consuming, but I like to do this like if I'm doing a makeup tutorial, or you know, I'm doing photography, like if I'm having my picture taken, or I just want to look really great on a night out or something, because it does give your face a little bit more of a sculpted look, which I think can be very flattering. Alright, so let's get started. Now the first thing that I usually do is apply a lip balm. So I just put on whatever I have in front of me. Right now I'm using the Body Shop Born Lippy. And I've also applied moisturizer already. So I usually do that like right when I get out of the shower. So right now I'm going to apply primer, and I'm using the Smashbox Photo Finish Dark Spot Correcting Primer. I don't really think that this works like as a corrector. It just works as a really nice primer. And I'm just going to apply some of that like onto my skin. And this is also really great if you have some sort of blemishes and some sort of areas where you have maybe a little bit of flaky skin or something. I mean, in the winter, it's really important to do exfoliating and moisturizing. And I'm also going to just get a little bit and just apply a little bit down my neck. So for foundation right now, I'm going to be using the L'Oreal True Match in the shade, Classic Ivory N2 in the neutral range, I guess. And I'm also going to be mixing it a little bit with the Bourjois Healthy Mix. I think this one's been discontinued. Just going to get a little bit of that out onto the back of my hand, and then also just like half a pump of... Alright, so once I've mixed that foundation, I'm just going to grab the Sigma Flat Angled Kabuki F88, and you can, you know, if you don't like using a brush, you can use your fingers. And I like to just dab a little bit of that using the corner, just kind of onto the central area of my face. And that's usually where I need the most coverage. I just kind of start at the center of my face and then work out. And I kind of just go in little sweeps, like little circular sweeping motions. I also do this like underneath my eye because, you know, that already covers up like a little bit of the redness and circles and stuff, so that means I won't have to apply quite as much concealer. And then I just sweep just whatever is left on that brush. Like, I'm not picking up new foundation, but just gonna go over my eyelids onto my forehead and then just sweep that in. So it's amazing to me how little foundation you actually need. I mean, I guess it depends on, you know, your skin. But if you have pretty good skin, like, don't pile on a ton of foundation that you don't even need. And then what I do is I just grab like a tiny bit of foundation and then blend it down my neck and around my ears, because sometimes like the skin on your face will be like slightly different color than on your neck, just because, you know, that part of your face is like more exposed to the sun. I actually use a moisturizer that has sunscreen in it, even in the winter, because, you know, sometimes in the winter you can get like major exposure to UV rays. What I also sometimes do at this stage is I take this damp makeup sponge. This is kind of like the beauty blender, and it's just a damp sponge. And I'll just kind of go over the foundation just to, you know, if there's any like streaks left over from the brush, like if you have any lines and stuff, this will just eliminate that and will make the finish look very smooth. Now is the time, if you have any blemishes or something like that on your face, you can go and do some concealing. I actually don't have any like pimples and stuff right now or anything like that, but I do have like a little bit of redness on my cheeks that I like to cover up. So I like to use this green toned concealer by Inglot, and this is the cream concealer number 60. And I'll actually use a little bit of that makeup sponge and just grab a little bit of that on the end of it, and then you can kind of just dab over like any areas that need concealing. And even though this is kind of a greenish color, if you blend this in really well, like you won't even notice it. Some people like to do this before foundation, but I personally prefer to do it after, because I find once I apply foundation, this will just like move around. I used to also put a little bit of this sometimes on my eyelid, because that'll take away a little bit of the redness also. So underneath my eye, I personally like to use this one by Makeup Forever. It's the Full Cover Concealer, or it's like a camouflage cream, because my skin is so fair that like the dark circles really show through. If this is like way too heavy for you, you know, you can use a lighter concealer, or you could use sort of like an orange or a pink toned color, because that will kind of cover up the blueness. But I find this one does a really great job, and I seriously only need like a tiny little bit. And I apply this with my finger and then just kind of dab it in. And this one you have to work kind of quickly because it does dry quite quickly. Grab a little. And what I also do is just get some sort of in the very inner corner, so I kind of turn my finger and apply it that way. And I'll just use that egg again, that kind of makeup eggy form sponge, and just blend that in. Now before I go and set my foundation with powder, I like to do a little bit of contouring, and for that I'm going to use a darker foundation, and this one is by Maybelline. It's the Fit Me Anti-Shine Stick, and this is like in a much darker color than my actual skin tone, as you can see. And you would do this where your face naturally recedes. So right here, if you kind of feel your face, you have here your cheekbones. And then underneath, it kind of goes in a bit. So that's where you would want to apply the contouring product. And I'll just apply like a streak of that foundation. I know it looks like ridiculous right now, but I kind of start at the ear and then go in. Well, I usually have bangs, so I don't tend to do this anymore, but when I didn't have bangs and I wore my hair back, you can also apply some sort of at the edge of your face, like right here, kind of. There you can see there's like a little indentation there. Underneath your mouth there. Then I grab like a brush, and I like to just apply a little bit of that product also down the side of my nose, kind of starting at the, like where your eyebrow ends. So what I do is I bring that down, and then here at the tip, I kind of bring it down like that. So you can bring it down sort of the tip of your nose, and then it connects there. Going back in with that makeup sponge, and I'm just gonna blend that out using sort of the more pointier side here. As you can see, it kind of creates a natural shadow. I'm just pulling this down a bit instead of pulling it up, because this is where I'm going to be doing some highlighting and placing blush. The rounded edge makes sure that you don't have any like harsh edges, because they work really great for that. So for me, this is kind of pointless because you're not even going to see this unless I pin my hair back, but I'm just going to do it for the sake of this video. If you use contouring products that are like cream or foundation based, you want to do that before you apply powder, because if you apply powder and then attempt to do this, it probably won't blend very well, like it might look really splotchy. And what you can also do is, if you have sort of a, like if you want your jawline to come out, you can apply a little bit of that there and then just blend that. And if you have like a double chin, you can, this is also like a trick how you can make that look just a little bit more receding. You can apply some of the product there and then pull it down. So I'm going to set it with a bit of a very fine powder. This is really where I would try to buy a product that's maybe a little bit more high quality, because I find that like a good powder makes a really big difference. Some powders, they can really look cakey after a while. So I'm using the Kryolan HD setting powder. It's the micro silk powder. And this one doesn't add any color. You can get this in a few different shades, because if you have like darker skin tone, like, you know, if you have African sort of skin or Asian or whatever, then using a really light powder, like even if it's translucent, can kind of look ashy on that type of skin. So I would get one that's a little bit sort of more darker toned. So at this point, you can really decide if that's like all you want to do. You can go ahead and do the rest of your makeup. But if you want to go kind of, you know, sometimes like for evening makeup or for like really special event or photography or something, you want to do a little bit more contouring, maybe just to kind of make your face stand out a bit more. And what I personally like to use for that is this product by The Body Shop. This is actually a bronzer. This came out in the summer. This is number 2. It's a bronzing powder for fair skin. As you can see, it's it's not very dark. So this one really works great for me. But you know, just find like a bronzer that works for your skin tone and try to get a matte one because you don't want to use one that has like a ton of glitter or sparkle in it. I'm using this brush. This is like my favorite contouring brush. This is by Hakuhodo. It's slightly angled and these brush bristles are just amazingly soft. I basically just go over those areas where I applied the darker foundation. So, and what I do is I start kind of at the very edge and work inwards because the place where you first apply the brush is where you get the most color deposit. Starting there, and I don't like to take it in too far, like I don't take it in all the way to my mouth or so. I just kind of like to maybe like, you know, where your eye ends, like here, that's where I kind of like to stop. I'm going to do a little bit sort of more stronger contouring just for the sake of this video because I'm not sure how well it's going to show up otherwise. And then for here, like that contouring here, I like to use like a fluffy brush like this. This one is the Sigma E40. Kind of go over that, and this is where I personally have to be really careful because like my nose is not perfectly straight. Like I totally know that. You know, I don't think I would ever get a nose job. To me, that is totally not something that I would ever consider. So for highlighting, I personally like to use powders, and I do this at this point. Personally in the winter, I've been loving this one by Kryolan, the Glamour Glow. This one is in the shade Pale Tan. This is really great if you have fair skin. They do make one that's in a darker shade like this one. So for me, this would look totally crazy on my skin. This is in the shade Glamour Tan, so it's kind of a darker color. And for this, I'm just gonna use a brush like this. This is the OCC Obsessive Compulsive Cosmetics brush. It doesn't have a number, but it's like a contouring brush. And just get a little bit of that product on. And I apply that to like the very tops of my cheekbones. And a little bit down the ridge of my nose. Now, if you have like very oily skin, you might want to be a little bit careful with how much highlighter you use because it can make your skin look greasy if you have like very oily skin. So there. And then what I'll sometimes do is I'll take a kabuki brush. This is the MAC, I think it's the 192, and I'll just kind of blend everything together, like the blush, or not the blush, the contour and the highlights. For blush, I'm going to be using this one by MAC. This is in Fleur Power. I haven't actually used this blush in a while. It's just so pretty. This is like such a nice coral color. I love this for spring. And my personal favorite blush brush is this one by Hakuhodo. This is from their Basics range. Like the highlight is here and then the contour is here, and the blush should kind of go somewhere in between. And here is really I kind of go backwards like this. Like I start kind of on the apples of my cheeks. You can just kind of do this like, this cheesy grin. And then you'll see like the apples of your cheeks come out, and that's where you should apply most of the product. And then whatever's left over, I kind of pull it back like that. And once you kind of have done that a few times, you'll kind of get the hang of where the blush should go on your face. You know, apply a little bit and then bring it back instead of applying a huge amount and then not being able to get it off your face. And also take a kabuki and just blend it all together. Then the last thing I would do is just add an eye primer, and I like to use the MAC Paint Pot in Soft Ochre. This one has a slightly yellow tinge, and for me that personally works great because of the discoloration that I have, like that sort of reddish discoloration that I have. This just does a good job of covering up whatever is left over, and it also works great as an eyeshadow base. And whatever's left over, I just apply that sort of on the lower part of my lashes if I'm going to be applying some makeup there. So I've just finished up the rest of my makeup. I kept things really simple so you can kind of see how everything looks when it comes together. Envision it like that if you were to pin them back. You can see the finished look. I just kept things really neutral today with the makeup. So I hope that was helpful for you guys, and if you enjoyed this video, please rate it with a thumbs up and leave your comments down below. I love reading them, so I will see you guys very soon. Take care, everyone. Bye!